Well, it's great. We've got a new mayor finally, and maybe we'll get somewhere with downtown. We weren't too happy with the last one. We felt like we talked, we begged, we pleaded, we didn't get anywhere. It's like downtown didn't exist, and there's been a lot of lip service paid to downtown, and nothing's happened. Looks like our new Mayor Brown is committed to downtown. That's great. But we want to see some action this time, and I think it's good to start early. We're all property owners and merchants and residents that are concerned about the state of downtown Jacksonville. We've asked Mr. Harding here. Mr. Harding, Abel Harding, is Mayor Brown's Director of Communications. So he's a direct conduit to the mayor for our concerns. Contrary to popular belief, I love downtown. I like having my business here. I like being part of the community. I've been here over 10 years. I have my home here and my business. I live at 11 East. Chris here lives at 11 East. All these folks have businesses or own property here. So the purpose for having Mr. Harding here today is to make sure that Mayor Brown hears the voices of those of us who live and work downtown and have a direct stake. We want to make sure that Mayor Brown gets good and accurate information from people who are on the front line and not from just detached policymakers. And I personally, and I think a lot of us do, feel like people that are making policy for downtown and all the decisions very often don't even live in the county. I talked to a board member of DVI the other day. He lives in Fleming Island. And he's giving me hell because I don't know what I'm talking about. Of course, I live and work here. So please ask Abel anything you want. Where we're headed, it's an open forum, and then he can pass it on to Mayor Brown, to Mayor Brown. And I think we can do this by just raising our hands, identifying ourselves, and asking the questions.
Jerry, should you get a sheet of paper and let everyone sign that's here and what their position is?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and then we'll get copies for everybody.
Okay. Sure. Vicki, you got that? Good, thank you. Okay.
TK speak.
Yes.
I am Doug Ganson. I operate 3 different businesses downtown. 2 at the Landing, 1 at the Tower. And I've been at it for 30 years. Watched a lot of administrations come and go, and a lot of them give lip service and do a lot of studies, et cetera, et cetera. I cannot tell you how excited we were for the moniker to have come out, Downtown Allen Brown. And then almost one of the first actions he took was to cut funding for 2 events that are pretty popular events downtown Jacksonville. One being the boat parade, which draws thousands of people and capitalizes on our riverfront. And the other one is eliminating all funding for any fireworks, particularly New Year's Eve. And that is contrary to promoting downtown. So when his first action is contradictory to all of the lip service that we've heard, certainly I'm concerned. But I have not heard that from the administration. Which is why I'm asking this question. Is that true, and is that consistent, and what's going on?
I need to go back and look specifically at the budget. I know we were having some questions. I know finance kind of bunch of things. Now what we proposed and what they cut, I'm not quite sure the difference at this point. So I need to go back and check on those 2 things specifically. But we still, there's not been a final budget adopted.
Because obviously what we're trying to do is draw people into the core.
Sure.
Okay, we have just lost 8 major events.
Yeah.
With the country concert series that have been moved to the outskirts of town. And you never get them back in to town because people own this property and they won't pay to park twice. Sure, if we could do it all over again, we probably have the wisdom to build the arena next to the courthouse and use that garage for both, but that we can't do. But why the city would facilitate a loss of 8 events, and then we're talking about these other 2, coupled with the Laura Street fiasco over the last 18 months, I swear to God, it just seems like government is trying to destroy downtown. I mean, everybody here has these same concerns.
What do you mean about the fiasco?
Yeah, Laura Street, let me tell you.
Laura Street was supposed to be a 5-month project, it's a year
Yeah.
and a half, that's not a fiasco?
Well,
They are in their the first 6 months, it never left the front of the landing. And
Well-
now they're back in the front of the landing, they've just finished another 2 months. That's not a fiasco?
Well,
It's
that was a
beautiful.
mistake as far as
It
not
is,
having
it
an
is
underlay.
beautiful, it is pretty, it is absolutely dysfunctional, but it's pretty. It makes it more walkable. That's not what I mean. What I mean is government consistently finds a way to take a 6-month project and turn it into an 18-month project, and small businesses have a difficult time withstanding. I mean, it's not just here. Listen to what the construction projects on Beach Boulevard around Hodges and San Pablo have done to those businesses. We can only sustain this for so long. We've been fighting this battle for 30 years.
Hey, well, you've been around Jacksonville for a long time, so you're not a rookie, you're not from out of town, you don't know what our problems are. What I'd like to know is, what does the administration think are the problems with downtown, so that we don't have to go around the room and convince you with, here's the laundry list of problems, and you say, yeah, we know about those. What do you think they are, and what is the administration going to do to respond to them?
I think the number one issue that we see, I know I personally see on a daily basis, whether I'm at work or whether I'm doing my jogging route downtown to the Riverwalk, is the homeless, obviously the vagrant issue, and having a daytime shelter set up, you know, whether maybe outside the core is one of the options that has come up. I think that's issue number one, is what do we do to move this problem that we have out here every day somewhere else and start trying to help people and get them off the street. And that's it. So that's number one. The other issue I think we see is an enforcement issue with JSO. That, you know, Saturday, one of the things I told the mayor Saturday morning, I was running the Riverwalk at 6 a.m. and running around bodies, you know, rolled up and sleeping, and that's obviously an enforcement issue. That's against the law. So why aren't they being moved? Why isn't somebody doing their job enforcing the law? So number one, a daytime shelter to get people out off the streets during the day. Number two, an enforcement issue to make sure that the laws are being enforced, that people aren't laying around on sidewalks during the night, during the day. I think those are the first two issues. And then doing something to bring workers into the core. Obviously, every night deal is a big deal for us, and we really hope happens, and we hope that that's the start. I mean, but that's what we really want to do, is get workers downtown, which will help retail, obviously.
May I piggyback on just
Sure.
what you said?
Sure.
I live at Cathedral Terrace, and on Flag Day, we thought it would be a good idea, because there were some important legislatures going on in City Hall after work, and we thought it would be a good idea to entice people to stay downtown, go to City Hall, and I think we were talking about the legal aid, whatever, and they needed to understand what was going on in the neighborhood. And like I said to some of the people later afterward, it was just ruined. We thought we could kill several birds with one stone. There are vendors that work in this area, so what we did is we contracted with them, and when persons were coming from the annex, they could stop, get a hot dog or whatever, and we would pick up the tab. But when we knew anything, all those people who had been playing cards and checkers or whatever, they just bombarded us and took over. Some of the persons, some of the sponsors were just disgusted. And we felt kind of bad about it, because we want to have a mixed group living downtown and working downtown and whatever. But it's not working if persons are not enforcing things. Now, I'll be very honest with you. I'm with Shadco Zone 1. And one of the members had been talking about it, and it just didn't go inside of the problem that was going on until I experienced it. Okay, suppose I was coming into Jacksonville, wanted to buy a condominium or something of that sort, and see all of those people hanging there. And it made us feel very uncomfortable. because most of them were African Americans. And you have a tendency to put a racial spin on some things. But we were mixed. I now understand that they are not all homeless. They're just people who just take advantage of a free lunch or whatever. And it's not fair to the persons who are having events in the park. We enjoy coming, there are 3 buildings with the Cathedral Terrace, Townhouse, and the other building on the side. We enjoy coming down to the park when we have like art walk or some of the other things like the Fiesta, the Cubans, the Mexicans, or whatever they are that's going to have something in the park. But some of the ladies are afraid.
Yeah.
Now, I know with me, I'm not, and I know that they have rights to be
So
there.
let me ask you a question. During Art Walk, when there are a lot of people down here, do you feel as intimidated by that population as, like if you were to walk out there tonight?
I never feel
Do you
intimidated.
think the average person feels less intimidated on Art Walk Wednesday than they do tonight in the park?
Yes.
Okay, the point I'm making is that it's a numbers game. I can answer some questions for you. A little more of my background. I've also served as the chairman of the Homeless Coalition for a couple of years. Was very actively working with White Gregor in the neighborhood and housing department about this drop-in center. We thought we had it cut with, I think you were at some of those meetings with Audrey, and so you know the background of it. The JSO's answer is going to be this: what are we going to do with them? You know, it costs us $1,000 to book them. It costs us, you know, $200 a day to house them. Quite frankly, we don't have the room. They're not the 14 people that got shot this week, which is our priority. And it's a numbers game. Okay. In most urban environments, the solution to the homeless problem, perception of the homeless problem, is a numbers game. You put 15,000 more people working downtown, and you fill up these buildings, and the homeless population will not change at all.
Okay,
but they will not be noticed because there's 15,000 other people, and they blend in, and they're not a problem. The problem is, it's the same 800 people that work downtown every day. I'm just kidding. And we get hit by the same people every day. I mean, we should be on a first name basis with most of these people.
Well, an idea just popped in my head. Abel, I know, what's her name? Jacoby. She's my sorority sister. Maybe we can get together and think of a way that we can decentralize. Well, I shouldn't use that word. It's not, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be down there. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying perhaps it is a perception. I have not worked with that population, but I've lived all over the world. And so I'm not intimidated about anything, okay? Everybody's not like I am, you know, just bull your way through. But perhaps with that hall down there, Jennifer's Hall or something else down there, maybe it's close to Jacoby's place. Maybe during the day, Greg, we could put something down there to keep them occupied. Because I certainly wouldn't want any.
It's all worked out. It's all worked out. Somebody come up with the funding. We've got a daytime drop-in center.
At this day center,
for years.
At this day center is drinking.
Okay, I didn't know that. I'm just getting down here. I'm
whole
sorry.
plan.
I'm sorry.
At this proposed day center is drinking, drug use, gambling, spitting, fighting going to be allowed?
Got all the rules.
No,
Already
and
set
that's
all
part
the
of the
rules.
Well,
issue.
what's going to compel them to go
Yeah,
there?
that's part of the issue, is how do you get.
And I read the police reports from Hemming Park in the area. All of these people have addresses. The people that are out on the benches at 4 o'clock in the morning at the park along Main Street all have addresses.
Oh,
They're not homeless.
He's right, and don't misunderstand. This drop-in center is not going to solve your problem.
No?
Not at all.
Well, what should we do?
Well,
We've
first,
got to outnumber
the
them.
first thing we can do
You've gotta
is,
get
is,
business
is,
downtown.
is stop facilitating them. And that is, and I've said this and I've been damned for it, get those tables and benches out of the park and off the street. A few years ago, we had benches on Monroe Street and in front of the Carling and in front of 11 East and in front of Eddie Farrow's place. I personally removed 4 of the benches. John Rood removed the rest. And the problem went away. And we have to do it you'll get a lot of flack in the press, it's not politically correct. We've got to do something, because we've tried everything else.
Well,
And this
because it's
population-
that perception. We do fingerprints from people all over town, and we, in a month, maybe see 1,000 people, not from downtown, they don't work downtown. They come in, and they have to come, you know, they don't have a choice. They are like freaking out, they think somebody's gonna come in and shoot them. Just, these women are so scared. There is such a negative perception. And they'll, you know, they can't use our bathroom because of our mailboxes. And we'll say, see the door right there at the Ed Ball, you can go right in there. They're scared to walk across the street. Well, how are you gonna, they think downtown people are just standing around with guns and gonna
We've
kill
had
you
14
in daylight.
You've had 14 people shot in the last.
And every newscast says it's
has said
downtown.
And you need to call your buddies over there and tell them to quit doing this.
That's a
They
big,
kill us.
they need to do that.
Sunday night at 11 o'clock, my 91-year-old mother turned the news on, and I was in the living room. She started screaming, 11 people have been shot downtown, and of course it wasn't, and she thought it was in Hemi Park.
Oh, my.
I did pick up the phone and started calling.
Oh,
Said,
so it's a perception, okay.
call it Riverside if you want to.
Right.
Well, and when you read the article, it actually tells you where it is. But they
The
know.
newscast always says
that-
downtown.
Well, that's gonna get you to watch it.
Right.
And
They do the same thing when it's in Springfield, they say
Well,
downtown.
and I've even had conversations, and we've had conversations
Been going on for
with
years.
DVI about this. Why don't you do something about this? Isn't this your job? And Terry Lawrence's response was simply this: well, from a legal sense, because of the downtown overlay, it legally is defined as part of downtown. So DVI does not feel that they can attack that perception. And it's time to get over being politically correct.
I know, because we're
Yeah.
lying while we're being correct.
You know,
And so, what
I agree with
message
that.
I want to
I
send
agree
to
with
the
that.
new people while they're enthused and want to make a difference, and I really do think that Mayor Brown is that what we've done or attempted to do or haven't done definitely isn't working. And we're never gonna fill up 11 East, the Carly, no one's gonna move down here. If you come on the weekends, when we talk about these events, if you see Hemi Plaza or see the library, when do people look for a place to live? On Saturdays and Sundays.
Weekends.
You drive through town and it looks like the ghetto, and you know, everybody goes, don't call it the ghetto. Well, it looks like the ghetto. And so if you want to entice people, we need to fill up the park in the daylight on the Saturdays and Sunday after church with family-oriented things, all the way down to the landing, down beautiful Bar Street, so people can see they're not shooting everybody on every corner. It is safe. The restaurants would love to be open on Saturday and Sunday. There are no customers because it's the night people, you know, take over on the weekends.
Or we have those screaming religious people.
Oh, it's screaming in the park. And, you know, and that's not the kind of, so if we could book events,
Yeah, the
you know,
Bible.
everything's so political, well, they got a right to do that. Well, let's fill it up with events that are conducive to getting the kind of people we want. Those screaming, yelling, I come out, because I come and work on the weekends, and you come out and it's just horrible. And that's not gonna ever get anybody to move
Abel, we
downtown.
used to say that Mayor Payton spoke in global terms and trying to go all over the world, yet he couldn't take care of his front lawn.
Right,
And we
right.
haven't seen any changes yet.
and this is, I mean, this whole problem that we're talking about now, the homeless, the crime, the perception, et cetera, is about the only thing left that will kill this Everbank deal. Because they're terrified for their employees. They have required the building owner to buy the Greyhound bus station and kick Greyhound out,
Right.
or they wouldn't even talk about this deal.
Yeah.
But I'm
because they're
grateful for
terrified.
that. That's why I
Oh.
pushed for it, because I want them to go.
Well, no, I mean,
If they're further away.
That's gonna certainly help the core downtown.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
gonna,
I
it's gonna
think so.
clean it
I
up
think
so
so.
much. It's,
Well, they're only gonna move it,
Yeah.
a quarter of a mile. It's
It'll
not
be far
gonna
enough
It
away
does
that
help.
it's close to you.
They're gonna walk.
no,
They're
it-
still gonna go to the landing, they're gonna go where they go now.
Abel, we
You
were-
gotta get that thing out.
They'll be on the
of
skyway.
town.
Abel, we were glad to see the mayor call the sheriff in and tell him to get police downtown. And I know the sheriff, and I saw the look on his face. He did not like that at all. And what we have right now are 10 additional officers that have been pulled out of other areas of the city, racing up and down the streets at night in their cars like mice, I can't say rats, mice in a maze. And there's some good cops and there's a lot of lazy ones too. It's very expensive. We need those officers. They had bigger fish to fry. And we had a security company here a few weeks ago, Triton Security, armed security company. They do the ports. They work closely with JSO on some problem apartment buildings up in the northwest area. And it's run by a couple ex-Secret Service guys. They made a proposal to us, and a lot of the folks that are here now are at the same meeting, that for about $380,000?
Yes.
They could supply 6 or more agents plus a supervisor to patrol downtown between the hours of 6 p.m. and 5 a.m. And I'll give you a quick example. What I like about that is that we have a little control over them. We can call them for all the nuisance stuff when it's inappropriate to call JSO. And I'll tell you, if you call JSO too much, they get mad at you, real mad.
They got mad at you, didn't they?
Yeah, they sure enough. They don't like me at all.
You know, Abel, if you go back.
Put
and
your-
look at-
But let me finish, Doug. We had one of their agents here the other day, Carol Bianco, who used to run the downtown ambassadors. You probably met her. She's the woman that wears the patchouli. You can smell her. You've met her. She knows where all the bodies are buried down here. DVI fired her when they contracted the ambassadors out. She went to work for this company. She's an armed security agent now. She would be in charge of it, and she knows how to run it. She knows what the issues are. She visited with me about 5:30 the other night. All the JSO officers are now down on the Riverwalk at 5 o'clock. There were 2 vagrants on the sidewalk, leaning against my building, garbage all over the place, drinking beer. As soon as we stepped out of my space, and they got one look at her, we didn't pay any attention to them. Away went the beer, they gathered their stuff up, and they took off. And I would be much more comfortable calling an agent to say there's some creepy guy outside my place making faces than calling JSO, and JSO will tell me he's not doing anything. He has a perfect right to do that. The security people could give them a bad time, get them moving.
Yeah, see, Abel, I'm Parker Hudson, I'm a property owner down here, and I think the perception that security force people, just the perception, you've got 6 or 7 of these people who look like police officers carrying weapons, just walking the streets, it's casually walking the streets.
Walking the streets.
Yeah, walking the
Yeah,
streets. Would be
visible,
sufficient.
you can see them.
I mean, they wouldn't even have to do anything, probably, except walk the streets.
No, it wouldn't. It's a deterrent. It's just like those police cars that was on the corner of
Snipe.
Monroe,
By
yeah,
the
Monroe
Snipe.
and Lauren. And they moved those cars off of there. Then you had the homeless using the flower planters for urinals
Oh,
in front of
my.
Dalton Agency,
Right.
walking up and
Right.
using the doorway and women sitting in there. They have no respect.
But the vagrants have that all figured out. They
Well,
know.
you got.
We got the car, let me finish. We got the cars backed up there and most of that stopped. And I'll tell you, Doug, I don't know what you mean by the fiasco. I've been downtown 51 years, and I know you've been here 40 years, but I've been here a long time. And this Laura Street project is the best thing that I have ever seen done for downtown. And I've been here a long time.
We were just,
You know, they did,
unfortunately, we were on opposite ends
well,
of this
okay,
project.
well, that was,
And it was disruptive to us for 8 months.
well, we're disrupted too.
For a
But you
month.
gotta live with that. When you go in and you tear something up, and then you're gonna, it's not like you're going out to a vacant lot and then building something. You gotta tear everything out first, so it's a mess.
We don't really need to
Yeah.
discuss
Yeah,
Large
it's
Street.
a
Large
bit-
Street looks great, but if
Well,
you
you
go
don't wanna
back.
hear it, you only wanna do the talking.
Well, Abel, with respect to Doug's comment that if we get 15,000 people down here, and the homeless crowd, the vagrants, will essentially be so diluted and will be so put off by all of these other people that they will disappear, that's probably true, but that's not gonna happen tomorrow, it's not gonna happen next year, it may not even happen in the end of the mayor's term. So one of the things, the SHADCO group, of which I'm also a member, and the Urban Core Citizens Planning Advisory Council, of which I'm a member, suggested, and I don't think Doug likes the idea, and that is to pull up all of those benches, all of the checker tables and what have you, and probably start playing Barry Manilow music on a closed loop continuously in Hemming Plaza. And it will discourage them from going there. Now, it's not gonna make it a pretty park for a while, but at least it will get rid of it. The previous administration was presented with this very same idea, and they said, I'm sorry, we don't have the money to do that. It doesn't take any money if you're gonna use the trustees from the jail and give them a couple of wrenches and a truck from Public Works.
Jerry and I'll take them out.
And-
I removed 4 benches in an hour with an angle grinder and a socket wrench. Come
It's
on.
just, are you gonna make choices or stay politically correct? Just like when they're showing the hurricane on Jersey Shore, there were hundreds of benches facing the water. We can never do that here. And that's what we should and we aspire to do. But until there's no benches and where they're not visible, people won't move here. Employers won't want to bring their people. And then when we have workers and residents, then slowly we can start putting benches back in, and you really can eat lunch in the
But
park.
when it's done, there's gonna be screaming like you've never heard.
I know, but that's what I'm
We're the ones
saying.
that are paying the
Somebody-
taxes
Well,
and
if
hanging
you-
on here.
If you look at the whole thing, a lot of the big buildings downtown have their own security forces. I have a store in the AT&T Tower. I have 2 stores in Landing. I know the owners of people in the Bank of America building, in the Enterprise Center. Number one, they're not here. They're not facing these problems. It is the public spaces that create this congregation area, which means it is very centralized right here. Abel, you're not going to hear anything new here today. The same problems that have faced downtown have been facing downtown for 30 years. It's the perception of the danger,
Yes.
part of it being because of reporting, part of it because of the homeless population. The perception that downtown is very confusing. We've been talking for a decade about fixing the one-way streets, how asinine.
But I
Why are
heard
we
that's
still
been
talking about it?
approved.
Why are we still talking about
But
it?
no, I heard it's for sure approved. Is that true or not?
That we're gonna make
That
them
we're
all
gonna make them
two-way?
two-way. I
You
heard
know,
that was true.
how long are we gonna talk about
They
this?
get
And
into
the perception that you can't find any place to park. See, most of them are just perceptions. They're the same. I joined the Merchants Association when I first came down here in 1983. That was the first time I met Roy. We were talking about the same stuff. Has the conversation changed, Roy?
Wow.
Well, Laura's two-way now. We have parking meters on both sides.
30
Yeah.
years. Yeah,
30
we
years.
have
What
accomplished that in
happened?
30 years.
What happens is that when you get these companies that they want to redo their property, that when I first came downtown, there was 3,500 parking meters down here. They were parking meters on both sides of every street, and
Right.
downtown was thriving. You know, Macon was doing 30 million a year, JCPenney was doing 19 million, Sears doing 25 million.
That was 30 years ago when that was real money.
Right, it'd be a lot more today. But what happened is that now we have 1,500. And a lot of those are over in areas where people don't park.
Agreed.
So we slowly, like CSX, I'll use that as an example. When they redid all, made a beautiful, property when they got through, but they did away with a lot of parking meters. And they want a campus-like atmosphere. And these big companies, it involves big dollars, and city, I guess, goes along with it. We get the redevelopment, but we slowly lost the meters. Now we're getting a few of them back. We have meters on Monroe Street, which is good, and we have them on both sides of Laura Street. I personally think Laura Street is good. And I love those pavers because it slows people down. Now, the only problem is that in front of the lane, that was a mess, but the problem was that the plans did not call for the concrete base.
Yeah.
And that was the city's fault, but also the construction company knew better than that. They knew better.
Let's
But
change
they went
order.
ahead and didn't do it. So now when it rained, it washed the dirt out. So they're gonna fix that. They're working on it now.
It'll open tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Well, we
So
got
that-
Let's say Chris waiting.
Abel, you and I are the same demographic here. One thing most of these people have in common is that they want our money. And the problem is, if you deal with the vagrant situation, if you change the streets, if you rip out all the parking meters, there's still nothing really for people in Jacksonville to do down here. It's a demographic that thinks the Landing is special occasion. It's not a demographic that would enjoy a wine bar. You talk about the vacancy here. I'm paying $1,000 a month for 565 square feet because I'm pretentious. Jacksonville is not a pretentious town. There's no place for them to live here. There's no family housing. There's not a pool downtown. There's nothing for a normal, quote unquote, normal Jacksonville person to do here unless they're celebrating something. They're not interested in art galleries. We're renting the wrong kinds of small businesses. We have a beautiful Mexican restaurant over there with expensive artwork on the wall. The average Jacksonville resident wants to eat a Taco Bell for $5. And unless we address that, unless the mayor gets behind, downtown retail that appeals to people from the west side, from Arlington, from south side, who think $20 for a meal is a lot, it's still going to be vacant no matter what else you do. And it's great that you're trying to do the deal with Everbank, but the small businesses is what's going to get people down here. And getting some housing for the normal person. I live in a building, I don't know, are there any kids there, Jerry? Are there any families, maybe?
I understand there's no school bus service down here either.
Yeah, we need people down here because this man is absolutely right. I grew up in New York. I went to college in the South Bronx, and never once was I afraid because there were so many people living down there, were working down there, and dilution is very real. But we don't just need businesses down here, we need families down here, we need small businesses down here, and we need something more than art galleries, banks, and trendy restaurants.
We have seen things in the
Treated
past.
here.
When I was, are you from here?
Used to be.
I
I used to be.
How long have you been here?
I've been here, I grew up in the area, so I've been in and out of Jacksonville all my life. I've lived here for 20 years.
When I first came down here to work and to start these businesses, I was in my 20s. And when we got off work on Friday night, and actually on Wednesday night also, the river was just alive. The landing was hopping with Fat Tuesdays. The River City Brewing Company, you couldn't, I don't remember what it was called back then.
Harbor Masters.
Harbor Masters. You couldn't get close to the
Crawdaddy's was
place.
over there, both sides of the
River
river
Rally,
were full.
River Rally. So there were 2 nights a week that there was just, a mass of people that stayed down here till 12 or 1 o'clock. So it doesn't have to just be a special event. I know that the Bay Street bars are trying to, recreate that or generate that. Because there is another white elephant in the room as far as developing downtown as an entertainment district. And I'm just, one of the kind of guys that just say what it is. The problem is, another part of the problem is the First Baptist Church and their attempts to keep downtown a quiet little sleepy place, which is fine. I mean, I've wrestled with that in my brain forever. Why is Jacksonville, with all of its natural beauty and natural assets, still look like this? We don't have stupid people. I've met enough people in the political arena, in the business arena, and financial arena to know that there is money, there are bright minds, but somewhere underlying, I've started wondering is Jacksonville exactly the way that the majority of people really want it to be? Maybe they don't want a vibrant downtown, and there's this small group of us who are fighting for it, but we're fighting against, we're a minority. We think, why wouldn't everybody want just this vibrant downtown?
I think they do. I think they do.
I'm not sure anymore, because
Yeah,
for
I
30 years, I've seen nothing accomplished.
They don't make the decision.
Look at the
The
town.
people in charge make the
Huh?
decision.
Look at
So
town
that-
center.
It's an
Back to-
example that they want something reminiscent.
I
of
agree.
vibrant.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, so my question is, we know that money is always the factor. The 3 suggestions that we have, that we feel that the return on the investment, remove the benches, and that's a politically correct question, and put them in storage, because we hope that we'd be able to bring them all back out. Go ahead with the 2-way streets, make it easy to maneuver. You shouldn't have to go 7 blocks so you can go around the block to come back. It's very confusing. Like I said, all my people are not from downtown. By the time they come in, they have to come in 5 minutes for fingerprints. They are about to faint because it took them 30 minutes
Oh, it's
to
possible
find a
that
parking
you
place.
are.
Oh, it's,
Oh, you're one of the
we
worst
got
places
8
to be.
merchants on our block and no parking, and the city did help me, they gave me back 30-minute meters, and that's at least turning it over. But we are the busiest block on the street levels, you know, not being in a tower. So I don't think that, just like when Laura Street is so much better. If you knew how many people would go the wrong way coming from the library, it is so wonderful that you can maneuver. Finish that, to put up signs and paint some lines, we'll go do it. And then the third thing is that cost effectiveness, because Scott, you know, you've heard that, and you know, you didn't, you know, feel very, want to embrace it, but how I feel, and Parker, is that they can be fired, it could be a trial basis, you can see them. It's very hard to complain on an officer because you know he's sitting in Ron's or in my back office on the computer all day, and we see it all the time. They're our friends that are on this route.
When you said I didn't want to embrace it, what exactly were you talking about?
I mean the private duty people.
The
well-
security company.
And I wasn't against that. The funding is the issue.
Well, no, that's
How
what I'm
many
saying.
officers will you get in the core of downtown? 2?
Well,
For $380,000
this
a
is
year?
the thing, is
You
that
gotta
at least,
Think about the funding.
well, that was just a general
Sure, sure,
presentation.
Sure.
We just know that, you know, JSO's got to cut down on
Sure.
this, and budget says,
Well, the
it's,
extra officers are gonna be gone on the 15th.
well, that's, yeah, we
Now-
got, and it helped, because the Hemming part was just in the night, and when they're here, it's wonderful. They're not checking out. But if there could be a trial period, and if you're weighing your whole budget, the bang for your buck, and when we had all of JSO here at the thing, even the sheriff, he's got to balance his budget. They would appreciate the help. They're not going to go hire a private security thing to fill in the void.
It is $380,000 for what they presented. That was presented for a 90 block.
Exactly.
That's
No,
it. Well, I talked to them and got them to give me another proposal personally, just for my own block. And they broke it down, it's just $18 an hour.
Okay.
So we could pick and choose how many hours
Now,
we want them, how
and
many
what about
officers.
funding? Now, I haven't been happy with downtown vision for many years. I was a big supporter at one time. I used to walk Terry Lawrence to her car after the art walks, go to all the meetings. I have no use for them at this point. I'd like to know what they do with that $1.5 million. And one of the board members told me that 57% of DVI's budget goes to the ambassador program. And this ambassador program now is a contractor that comes in, it's just like having the Sandy John company that comes in and cleans the toilets and the urinals in restaurants and bars and things, and you've got a little tag that says sanitized by Sandy John. This contracting company does this all over where they need a Band-Aid. We have to do something, we have a meeting, let's get this company, they'll bring their branded stuff in, and their vehicles and their hats and uniforms, but it's not doing anything for us to spend all that money on watering some plants. Give you another example, I was driving by the bus station yesterday, man lying face down on the sidewalk, fell off his walker. I called it in the JSO. There's a ambassador 2 blocks away walking down the street working on their iPod. We could take some of that DVI money and divert it to this private company. But I don't know what Downtown Vision does anymore. I don't want much to do with them. I don't see any
Jerry,
need for
you
them.
can get a entire printout of the entire budget and each itemized expenditure on probably on the internet, but I can get one. It shows every
But a lot of
detail.
the things, and the part of DVI, the cleaning up, I think things really have been looking clean. But who's making all the dirt? Last night when I left, there were a whole bunch of them on the bench right there, and you come back this morning, and it just infuriates you. We're all just at our last breath, because they're the ones, we're having to use all our DVI dollars to clean up from the night people.
I think Dawn and myself have always been supportive of removing the benches. The previous administration did not want to do it. I also believe we need to cut the power off, so put charging our
Yes.
cell phones down
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Out there with clippers, cutting each other's hair and all that
Yeah.
stuff. I think
Sure,
that
yeah, let me ask you a question. If all the benches were gone, where do you think these people are gonna go?
They go down.
So we're gonna go down to the
They'll
next
go
part.
back to Main
The
Street.
next part.
You don't think they just stay right in Hemming Park on the ground?
Some of them probably will. They'll sit
Well,
on
I don't think you're allowed to
concrete
sit on the ground. I think
They
that
can sit on the concrete ledges.
we could get the officers to move them for that.
Abel, there is a law, and there's a sign in Hemming Plaza that you're not allowed in the plaza from sundown to sunup. Well, you were at the last Chatco meeting. There was a female JSO officer there, and I brought that up. And she said, yeah, she was wearing that. And I said, well, why isn't it being enforced? Because I'm down here at night too. If I'm out somewhere, I'll ride through downtown. She said, we just don't enforce it. I think they don't want to get harassed because they're accused of mistreating the homeless.
But Roy, after we
And-
did that at Shatco, they deployed, that Adam Brown deployed them, they're not in there. They've been
That's
cleaning
only
it
through
out.
the 15th of
It's almost
September.
gonna be up again. It really works. When you complain, they do it for a little while. And so what we're saying is that if the minds got together, maybe not that exact proposal,
Sure.
in blocks or whatever, what we're doing is not working. It's cheaper, no retirement.
When is it not working? You just
No,
said
no,
that
the-
at night.
I'm saying, it works when they're here, but we're fixing to lose them all again, and it costs too much. They're cutting all his policemen. Downtown, they're not gonna deploy those people all the time, so for us to get security, visible security, walking around, not Barney Fife, real people.
We've called in the Army temporarily for what the Boy Scouts can do all
Right.
the time and a hell of a lot cheaper.
So if we
And
could,
take that money from downtown vision, but we have to do something now. We sat on Peyton for 8 years, nothing got done. We had to do it ourselves. I'd like to see those benches and tables taken out tomorrow.
Yeah, downtown
Let me-
Brown, I'm
let me ask
a
you a question.
Republican, and I voted for Brown. I mean, that was a shock. First time ever.
Thank you.
But it was like, okay, downtown, yes.
You don't have to
Every-
tell us, he's already elected.
I'm just saying, every single
I'm for
time they
downtown.
ran that commercial about, he wants to help downtown.
Right.
It's like, okay, now I'm getting more and more Democrat.
But let's do something immediately.
Right,
And
well,
you can go out there, the mayor can issue an order this afternoon, tell Public Works to go over and take those benches off Duval Street and out of that park. And I had an incident last month. I got in a lot of trouble with vagrants that were down there congregating, came up here, vandalized my building, and I had a lot of trouble over it. But they're all down there hanging out. They're not right now because the police are here. The police are going to be gone. Let's get rid of the problem. Let's get rid of the bench. So
They're
they
all
can't hang
going,
out.
the night officers are all going away.
They would.
That
Couple
patrol Hemming
weeks.
Plaza.
And they were out there at 5 o'clock this morning because the cops knock off at 5 o'clock, the special patrol, and all the bums were back out there.
Well, I'll tell you one good thing, I think, is happened for the city, is that they took those scanners away from the news people. I think that, I don't know whose idea, probably
I think
the,
it's a good thing that don't
Well,
tell anybody.
probably, I don't know, probably the sheriff, but I think that was wonderful that he did that. Because they get in the way of the officers trying to get to an accident. And I don't know, I never heard downtown, I heard Brooklyn with those shootings. Now, I guess.
Oh, I heard
After it got corrected.
Abel
But
must
they
have
a
got to
police
him in
precinct
time.
there. So now, that's gonna stop, and the news people don't like it, of
No,
course.
they don't. Mr. Chamberlain, I know you got some ideas.
Yeah, I was just wondering, say that all the benches were removed. I'm wondering how that would look for somebody coming downtown to come downtown thinking about moving down here or whatever. You see all this sterile situation where you have a park with no benches or tables. You have
it looked
the
more
park
like
on
a
Main Street
plaza.
with.
Well, we're not so
with no
concerned about the benches and the park and
And
the
to me, it
tables.
would be it'd be a negative for people that would, they come downtown and see no benches, no tables, what the hell is going on?
Well, sir,
I mean, that's just a negative we ought to consider.
But they wouldn't see the bums. sitting
Well,
out there.
sitting
You're
on
gonna
it.
see the bombs anyway, whether the
Well,
benches
see,
are there.
what,
or not.
what I heard from Terry is that the way they, like Alvaro has them sitting out front, and Nola does it sometimes, they want more cafes out on the street so that you see real people and not the bums. But if you have your choice, Ron, and that was the argument that they gave us all along, well, if I want to come out of City Hall and sit and eat my lunch and there's no benches.
Well, they don't do that anyway.
I
There's a
know,
park
because you
around there.
can.
No.
You, the girl from Boynton Rec
They
goes
grab their
there to
lunch.
eat because she smokes, and she got assaulted. And so, it's 6 of one hat, you gotta pick your poison. I think it has to be empty and clean, and we won't be paying to clean all their papers and all their crap
Terry
up.
Stewart and Cindy Lacadera told me that they were
Yeah.
afraid to walk through the park.
But at least it would be clean and open.
Get rid of the people instead of the benches.
Well, I don't think we can get rid of them.
Chris has something to say.
I don't think that anybody's making the decision to live downtown based on the amount of benches in Hemming Park. I've toured every building in downtown. I've lived in 2 different ones, and at the end of the tour, nobody said, and there's 30 benches in Hemming Park, so sign tomorrow. I
No,
mean,
it's the people. They don't object to the benches. the
No,
people
it's
that's out
not that either. Let's
there.
be
It is.
honest.
Yes, it
People want to pay $1 a square foot in Jacksonville. That's what they want to pay. That's what Florida rent
is.
is.
That's what everybody wants to pay. That's what I want to
That's-
pay. I
that's
can't
what-
get away with it.
That's what I'm paid in every other part of Florida. I pay a little more because you see that exposed brick wall? I have one in my apartment, I pay extra. But most ordinary people, they don't care. I get laughed at when I bring people over. You're paying $1,000 for this little closet? And then they go back to the west side and live with much less nice conditions and think they're a king. It's a demographic problem. This is a southern town. We're in southeast Georgia, and we're trying to be something we're not. We're building lofts, we're building exposed brick walls, we're building places that normal people don't want to live. We're not New York, we're not Chicago. Forgive me, we're a southern town, and we've got to get appeal to the normal people. Not everyone is an 18 to 49-year-old white male like me and Abel with a bunch of money that wants to live in, a stylish place. People want a pool, they want a place where they can live with their families. They're picking apartments that are half as much, twice as big in other parts of town, and it has nothing to do with the vagrants. It's a cost-benefit analysis for these people. They don't want this kind of lifestyle. We're trying to appeal and be trendy. We're a downtown that's embarrassed of our surrounding neighborhoods.
I agree.
What works down here is the Gatorable, because these people like to drink beer and watch football. He's wearing a Jaguar shirt right now. There's one place downtown where he can do that, Chicago Pizza. There's no other places to do that down here.
That's true, Chris.
People, it's not that. I know you think it's that, but it's not that. I'm the only person here under 30, and I talk to people who are under 30 with money, and nobody's saying get rid of the homeless. They're saying give me something to do. Give me a place to live under $1,000. That's what they're saying.
Okay.
Hey, well, let me just say one thing. I think
Very
that
good,
what we
very good, I
need
understand that.
is a mayor, and Brown may be the one, that has enough backbone to get that homeless shelter out of downtown. Now, I like Ed Austin, he was a good friend of mine, but that is the worst thing he ever did for downtown, is when he got that homeless shelter down there.
Well, put it on my side of town.
Well, they need to get it somewhere, there's plenty.
I was kidding, that's what you're gonna hear.
That's what you're gonna hear.
You know what?
Look
Give it
what,
to Gateway. There's nothing in Gateway. Put them there.
look, let me finish. We listen to you, now let me talk. In New York, you know what Mayor Blumberg, he shut them all down. They're
How?
gone.
Some of us don't know that story.
He shut them down, he couldn't,
What did he do?
Well, the
Some of us don't
They
know.
cut the money off.
the
They cut
city
money
could
off.
not afford the homeless shelters anymore. So he said, we cannot afford you people here. We're shutting down the centers. Now, if you have a family or someone that'll take you, we'll buy you a bus ticket or a plane ticket. But you can't stay here because there's no services for you. Now, I don't know, it's pretty drastic. I don't know if we're ready to do that. But if we could somehow, and I know all this takes a lot of money to do all that stuff, but if they could somehow go outside the city limits or in the city, out from downtown, and buy, there's plenty of property, there's good buys on it right now, because real estate market's insane. Buy whatever, how many acres they need, build a homeless shelter there, have a farm there, like they do in Texas. They raise their own food. It's self-sufficient. They take no money from the state. They could do that with this homeless shelter, and they would be much happier. They would feel better about themselves. They would be accomplishing something. They would be self-supporting. This one fellow they used as an example, he was just a petty thief, bad checks, crimes, burglaries, robberies, all kinds of, he had a storied past. This is not for violent criminals, murderers and people like that. But they put him in this center, and he was there, I think, for 5 or 6 years. They sell food also. So they actually make money on this farm. And he was in the division of processing the food to be sold. And then when he got out of prison, he has an $86,000 a year job now, works for a food company. So he said it's the best thing ever happened to him. He had never really been anywhere. And I'm not saying that's going to happen there, but it would at least give them a purpose. They'd have somewhere to go and something to do every day.
You think that would result in eliminating a lot of people in work?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
So then we could have the benches.
Well, yeah, if you.
We'll bring the benches back, Ron.
Ron likes benches.
We'll bring them back. I said we're gonna put them in the
I
warehouse.
don't think we're so
We need
concerned
some
about
night
benches,
lights.
there are tables out there.
At one point, DDI used to bring the benches down every day for lunch or something like that.
Well, they
wasn't
were
it?
all removable, and then
Yeah.
it had to cost money to put those
Yeah.
new ones in. They had to go purchase them, and I don't know where those removable ones went. I don't know, I'd like to
sundown, they
have those
would
and just bring them out for an
Chain them all
event.
up. You had big
Yeah.
round portable tables and they chain them all up.
And so that costs money to put those stupid ones in permanently.
Well, is everybody in favor of the sundown to sunup thing? For
Oh, no,
him to
that's
pass?
law, and I'm
The
willing.
only thing is policing. And I guess,
And the
The
way to
statement here is
effectively
they're not
police
gonna
it
have
is to
any
get a private
police
company
officers
down
that we
there.
can
Because
afford.
JSO does not have the manpower.
If you're taking the extra officers out, obviously the officers that are assigned to downtown on a regular basis will remain.
they're still gonna be there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just these.
'cause I know
extra-
some of them, they have bicycle, officers, or they do now, I don't know if they will.
I know Mr. Chairman, they like to sit in, they like to sit in.
He's
close to
supposed
it.
to.
And I'm friends with all those, and they do go sit in there, and and they're our friends, but it pisses us off. Instead of them walking around, what has happened is this is the cush job. The 3 years before you retire, you're assigned to downtown, and they want to stay in where it's cool. They're all older. They want to play on the computer. I've had them in my place, you've had them in yours, and Ron, I know you've had them. And so we can't do anything. You can't call and complain on those.
They're
where-
not patrolling, they're calling,
They're not
they're responding to
patrolling,
calls for
right.
service. And that's the
And
way
so
JSO's
if-
always worked.
But if we had that private service, by crackies, if we don't see them walking around, they get fired, You can't fire those officers, and you don't want to report them, it's like,
Yeah.
they're fixing to retire in a year, but then we're not getting the results we need, and it costs a lot of money for them to get to sit there for 4 hours on their laptops doing other stuff,
Vicki,
This is-
before you get too critical of the police, let me tell you what you need to remember. They're the only thing between you and those people in the plaza that would come in, put you in the back and lock you up and rob you. They're the only thing
Oh,
between
no,
you.
I know
Yeah.
that, I know that.
That's
We'd like to
his
see an
job.
active patrol though.
Does it, Bob, should there be rules for Hemming Plaza that also that carts can't be, the little golf carts, their little golf carts can't be driven out on it, they can't drive your police cars up to the statue if they're talking to somebody, I know we see them on a regular
No,
basis.
I think that's good.
Is
We
that-
like
They
that.
should be mobile, the police. They should always be mobile.
If they're in the park, it's great, no matter how they get there.
They
It
should
doesn't
go.
have to get there, 'cause it doesn't matter if you see them, I just want.
And they've got those little, I don't think JSO has those little two-wheelers. I mean, those things are great.
The,
The
Segways.
segways,
The segways.
Segway,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think that would be good if you're up eight feet. A lot of the officers have been complained on by the vagrants in the park and they get in trouble because they make complaints. They
Yeah.
just make complaints.
Well, everybody gets a traffic ticket, gets mad at the police officer. They're not mad at
If we have
themselves for their
security
speeding.
people, they're held to a lower
They're
standard.
private security, yeah.
What about Monroe Street? Now, it went through the Transportation Committee, recommended to leave it open, reopen it. It was voted 2-1 in the council, I believe, leave it up to reopen it.
By
Now
the
it's
new
being-
courthouse, by the new courthouse.
Right.
Now it's being debated. I circulated a petition that everybody except Vicki within a 2-block, because she thinks she's gonna get some
No.
magic parking out of this.
I'm gonna get two-way out of it. If
Within
you
a-
two-way the we don't need that little driveway.
Within a 2-block radius, we had a number of signatures from business owners and property owners to keep it open. And now it's Don spearheading.
They're working on some legislation to just wait on the whole Monroe Street reconstruction, allow the new mayor to take a look at it, to see what the new administration wants to do with downtown and with that area, and then readdress it later on. And that would save $800,000.
Well, do you know anything about the two-way streets? Because if they do that, it's gonna solve the problem.
We need to really work on two-way streets, I totally agree with you. And that's something that I'm hoping the administration and the city council or whoever will work on here in the near future. I don't know that there's any plan for what streets will be two-way at this time. Abel may know more than I do,
But I don't know about a park in front of the courthouse. The JSO doesn't want it. It's just more green space that has to be patrolled and be full of vagrants.
and I understand where you're
Well,
coming from.
that's the part I like. We need green
Grass.
space. Yes, in Europe.
This ain't Europe.
Well, listen, I know.
You've been to Europe? She's been
But
to
I'm
Europe.
just saying. Look at the architect of that building. It's not the Prairie View where everything is all out and you go all around. It's really compact. For the architecture is there in the street. He put it in the street in the first
I want to
place.
be able to drop my loved one off at the step and pick her up. Well,
Well,
she's
now,
here
we
to
don't
do it
want-
anyway, and not have to walk through downtown, and I live and work here.
But why do you think he put that building way out like that in the first place?
Well, they said they built it too wide.
It should have been
It
a
was
high
supposed to be
rise.
that wide. But I don't think that was the case.
It looks like
I
it
was-
landed from outer space there. That's what it looks like.
Well, I was trying to look at it from an artistic point of view, but I see I've lost that battle.
I don't know why we didn't build something like the federal building.
I understand.
That's what downtowns are for. You go vertically, you don't go horizontally.
You know,
So
they-
It's
where
too
are
late
we
now.
on all that, though? I mean,
Well,
so-
we'll see what happens. I mean, I think that Councilwoman Boyer and Councilman Redmond both have an idea of, let's allow the administration some time to tell us what they want. You know, they deserve that, and I think that we should give them that opportunity.
But I'm afraid the administration's being influenced by people that don't live or work down here, that have nothing to do at all. And I saw some of that transition committee some of the people you put on it, and those people do not have downtown's best interest in mind.
Well, I think that's very unfair for the people who live downtown and walk downtown, and I think that would be a hazard with cars running up and down there like that.
That's
And please, I don't want to be dramatic about it, but the building is so imposing. It is a beautiful building once you get a...
Did you see Ted Pappas's plan?
with this little driveway
It
in the
looked great,
front.
and with a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Sorry,
Two-way the streets.
Yeah, but we just
Sorry.
don't know what we got.
I'm sorry. But
Chris?
I'm sorry.
You can go.
I was just gonna ask if you had any, plans as far as events that have been canceled. I know Gus was all upset about that, but, I'd like to actually see something like every weekend, every other weekend, as often as possible, something to do downtown. And, broadcast it on TV.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things
That's a
that
good idea.
we've still kind of been exploring ideas. Obviously, Art Walk has been tremendously successful, so how do you take that and create it to be,
Right, every week, right.
that's
Well, see,
something-
the thing
something-
is-
It doesn't have to be the same thing, but something.
Something.
But Abel, when DVI talks about that success of Art Walk, and then you see the Riverside Market every Saturday in the daytime, and 10,000 people go, it's a failure for downtown. That should have been on the North Bank bringing us people. We missed the boat. And so once a month, yes, at night, that has, people take their kids to that, they have everything. We don't even come close to that, and that's
Yeah.
repeatable. It's over and over, and they know it's gonna be there, they're coming. That's the kind of thing that we need. Daytime, bring your family, look around, it is nice down here.
Yeah.
People haven't been here in 30 years, you know? When I was gonna buy my store, I didn't wanna come back down here, and I go to First Baptist. When you go to First Baptist, it's just like if you were going to Bank of America. You They've got guards, you go park your car, nobody comes near you, you get in your car and you leave. It's like its own little island, and nobody really mingles downtown. No one, all those people from all these churches go eat somewhere else. All our restaurants are starving. We couldn't.
They're all closed.